You're just in time to enjoy some information that may spark your fantasy football and your analytical knowledge of NFL football this season, as we have a gentleman, Thomas Hall from GridironIntelligence.com, to bring us some new stats and a new way to look at analytics. Thomas is up in just a second to tell us all about it.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history. And welcome to another segment where we get to investigate some great football history. We're going to do it a little bit differently here. We're going to do it with some statistics, which we all love to nerd out about. And we have a perfect guest here to share with us tonight. We're going to be trying to run a series here with him coming up here. He's got a fairly new site. It's called GridironIntelligence.com. He is a past guest, came and talked to us about the Denver Broncos about a year ago. His name is Thomas Hall. Thomas, welcome back to the Pig Pen.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great. It's great to be back. It's been too long.
Yeah, most definitely. I guess to start off with, why don't you tell us, about this new project you have going, and maybe sort of its origins and where it came from and where you want to go with it.
Yeah, well, it's called Gridiron Intelligence. It's a web-based stats and analytics site where you can go self-serve NFL stats, play-by-play stats. And where it really came from is my passion for football. I've loved football since I was young, and I've loved stats since I was young. And over the years, I've been an analyst for Fortune 500 companies, and I decided to put that all together and come up with Gridiron Intelligence and start this. It's a subscription model that you can go in and look at any play-by-play stats pretty much that you want. And the real reason why I started is because for people like us who want to know, like fans or analysts who want to dig in and compare players or teams, it's really tough to get really good data all in one place. So we wanted to be able to bring this to everybody in one-stop shop, so to speak. And then the second thing that we wanted to take care of was we wanted to add some context around it. Because a lot of this stuff, you see a lot of stats out there, a lot of metrics that people don't know what's really behind them, right? Some of them aren't very transparent. People are using them incorrectly. And I can get into some examples of that a little bit later, but we wanted to add that context and transparency so that people understand what it is that they're using when they're looking at comparing a quarterback to another quarterback or running back to another running back. And then finally, it's really expensive to do all that. I mean, these other sites charge a lot of money to give you part of the picture. And so we wanted to make that a very cost effective way of doing it. We didn't want to charge an arm and a leg to get people like you and I access to this data. So we've come up with a way to log the data so we can calculate pretty much any kind of metric, and we have some exclusive data as well. So that's where it generated. Those are the problems that we're trying to solve. And it's really it's on a website with a easy to use dashboard. You just go in, you select what you want to see, and then you can use those metrics. Right now, It's just sample data. It's just sample data from 2023. So people can look at it and see what they like and dislike before we go ahead and do all of the data starting in 2025, the 2025 season, and then the subscription period will start then. But right now, it's free to go look at.
Okay. Now I noticed, just scanning through the site and everything, I see a lot of it looks almost like charted plays, or even like something you would see a play being drawn up. I'm seeing, a lot of arrows on a field and things like that. So maybe explain to us, what's going to be different about it. Like, let's say we want to look at, some of Saquon Barkley's runs. How would that be displayed?
Well, the actual way they run is not going to be displayed, but what will be displayed is pre-snap formation. So we will show you what the defense formation was and the offense formation was right before they snap that ball and hand off. So that's something that I haven't seen out there. So we will be able to provide that. So if you're interested in seeing what happened right before the snap, kind of what the quarterback was seeing when he snapped that ball, then you have that formation. They'll also be able to record, we'll also be able to give you what happened during that play. So was he contacted before he even hit the line of scrimmage, or was it after the line of scrimmage? How many yards after contact did he have? Was there a missed tackle? Did he make somebody miss? I mean, all those kind of stats that you really want to know. Like you could go get his yards for that play. He ran for 5 yards, but there's a lot of other information on that play that if you don't have, you can't provide that context when you're talking about it, because a 4 yard run or a 5 yard run for one running back may be completely different than a 5 yard run for another running back. So that's what we want to do, is add a little bit more of that flavor, a little bit more ability to slice and dice and understand just what really happened on that play.
Now, does that, like, if we keep Saquon Barkley as sort of our example, now does that lead to us seeing what he does against a stack box against a two deep safety look? Is that what you're?
Yes. So
Okay.
we'll see what like I said, the pre-snap formation, you can understand what that is. So you can see what the coverage was. We know how many defensive linemen are lined up in that, and maybe it's not a defensive lineman, but the number of people that are lined up along that defensive line, plus how many defenders are in the box. So you'd be able to slice that and dice that a few different ways. So if you want to know, does Saquon Barkley, how he does against an 8-man box, you can find that out versus other players or teams as well. You can understand just how the team performs in that situation.
Okay, I assume that almost works the other way too. So if you have your favorite defense and you wanted to see how they're doing against, a particular formation of an offense, you would see how that would go too. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the nice thing too is it's not just defense and offense. And there's some samples in here where you can see player versus player. So maybe it's Saquon Barkley is running the ball, but you can also see on that play or various other plays, how well did that offensive lineman go up against another defensive lineman? So, play versus play. So if they've lined up and there's no stunt or twist, you'll know that offensive tackle lined up against this defensive end and how that play turned out. So if you got 5 yards running right towards that defensive end, that's a pretty decent run right at that defensive end. So that player, that offensive tackle, probably got the better of that defensive end on that play.
Well, I can tell you as a fan that's looking forward to the season, I think that'll be very interesting. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and with the recent trades that have gone down and all the changes they made, I'm gonna be very interested in seeing what they do and how often they're running 13 personnel and what they're doing out of that, because I think that's going to be a part of the season. So that sounds like a very good tool for me to be checking out, and any other Steeler fan to see how that's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's going to be so many different metrics and so many ways that you can cut up the data to really truly understand what's going on. So it's going to be a valuable tool for fans and analysts for sure. And like I said, it's not going to cost an arm and a leg to do it. So if you have a podcast, I mean, I have a podcast, and I like to bring in different stats. Some of those metrics you can get really granular and understand what happened. Bring that to your podcast, talk about it, and add some more information for your listeners out there that they probably didn't have before.
Yeah, very interesting.
Mhm.
So, okay, so that's sort of where you're at this upcoming season, and you have information from last season. Where do you see it being like 5 years from now? Where do you project you would like to
Yeah.
take this site?
Well, obviously, the first thing is what I talked about, giving fans and analysts and folks the basic play-by-play abilities that I talked about. The next step is going to fantasy football. So if we can log all this data the way we are, and see every play happen in a granular at a granular level, like we're going to be able to do, you can then start to use that to create your lineups during the season based on how good or bad this particular player was versus that defense or versus a player, right? So if you're talking about a wide receiver who's going to go up against a cornerback, and they pretty much know that's going to be the defender on him most of the time. You can see how well that player has done, that wide receiver has done against him in the past, and offer a probability of what their stats may be. That's a difficult thing to do. I'm sure a lot of people have tried to do it. That's an algorithm that we're going to develop, but that's down the road. And that's to me is a much bigger use for this data, being able to set your lineup based on these play-by-play stats. And I think that's going to be valuable because, there's a lot of pride in winning your fantasy football matchups for sure.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I guess that, that comes to fruition when you have that. You're going to be able to say, your favorite wide receiver, your receiver on your fantasy team is playing against a said defense, and you can say, oh, that defense likes to play, man coverage, 48% of the time, and this is who's going to be guarding him if he's on the left side and he lines up. That you'll have a lot of analytics to study, and boy, it's going to be mind blowing to fantasy football players. They'll be
absolutely,
yeah, they'll have
absolutely. I'm looking forward to that piece, but at first we've got to get enough of the data to support that, right? I don't want to just come out with something that and say it works when it doesn't. I need a couple of years worth of data to really test the algorithm, make sure that works, and then you're going to launch that as well. So that's the future of Gridiron Intelligence. But right now it's just, you could still use it right now for fantasy football if you wanted, because you can slice and dice it pretty well. You can see a lot of different metrics, but that's kind of at your own, you got to do it yourself. Whereas our plan is to later get to a place where you can just enter your lineups and it'll tell you which one you should start versus the other players that you have on your lineup.
All right. Well, why don't you tell our listeners where do they start out? Where do they check out your site and check out your prices that you're going to be having coming up?
Sure. Well, gridironintelligence.com. So just go to gridironintelligence.com. The opening page can either take you to our written content, because we are going to have football analytics written content, and there's some on there now for people to read and learn about the NFL and the analytics behind some of the decisions that are made and the coaches make are the sometimes wrong decisions that they make. Mm-hmm. For example, we have we've written up a couple articles about throwing past the first down marker, whether or not they should be doing that or not. So things like that. So you can go there, but on the stats and analytics page, that you click on that'll take you to the sample data on the dashboard. Now the dashboard right now is not fully complete. It's gonna keep evolving, but it'll give you a basic understanding of what we have gathered so far. And right now there's no cost. And if you sign up right now, you can sign up and get your name in there while we're building this thing, and we'll contact you when the subscription period starts. And all those early sign up folks, we're going to give up to 3 months free of charge to really try it out and see what it is. But right now we're probably going to be about $6.99 a month if you pay for a whole year, which is not too bad for the level of data that we're going to be
reasonable
offering.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Thomas, we would love to have you come back on and explain some more of this here. Do some segments here next week, maybe, and talk about another piece of the puzzle here. That's the Gridiron Intelligence.
I would love to. That sounds great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on today. It was been fun.
That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.